Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Norway Chess 2024. This is the first of a handful of recaps coming out of Stavanger, Norway, where we are taking part in an incredible chess tournament. Well, not us, but the best players in the world, and we are going to come along for the ride. We have two sections. We have the Open and we have the Women's. In the Open, we have Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano Caruana, Ali Reza Firouzja, Praggnanandhaa Babu, and Liren, the reigning world champion. What a squad of players, by the way. On the women's side, we have the two top Chinese women, and that's Wenjun and Lei Tingxia, and that's not even including Tan Zhongyi. She's not playing, but she's the candidate. So China, super powerful up top. Two Indian players, Humpy Koneru and Vaishali Babu. They just played in the candidates tournament in Toronto about a month ago. And we also have Pia Cramling participating, as well as Anna Muzychuk. So that's the field. One quick thing. The format is really weird. There's 4 different types of scoring. There is the win in classical chess, which counts as 3 points. And then there is the Armageddon. So if the game ends in a draw, the players play 10 minutes with white, 7 minutes with black. Black gets draw odds, which means the game is over for black in a victory if black makes a draw. But black starts the game with 3 minutes less. And today, after that very long-winded introduction, we also had Magnus Carlsen versus Liren. So we start off with a banger. More on that later. A lot of fun, very exciting. And you may wonder why the tagline is, it's so hot in this room. I'm gonna take off my hoodie. I'm sorry. We gotta take our clothes off for this recap. It's the only way to make it interesting, but okay. All right, now this is a new hoodie, by the way. I'm covered in fuzz now. Life is tough, but we're gonna power through. So, we are gonna kick things off in the classical chess game between Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru Nakamura. E4, E5, knight f3, knight c6. We have an Italian. We have knight to f6, which is the 2 knights targeting the pawn. In the center on the e4 square, d3, h6. Very edgy stuff. There's a lot of different lines here, but h6 stops white from going to the g5 square, prepares g5 himself, depending on one of white's setups. White can play c3, d4. White can do a handful of things. He does, in fact, play c3. And Hikaru, actually, it's kind of interesting, he doesn't play for a d6 setup. There's another way you can play here like this, and then put the pawn on g6 or g5 a little bit later. He puts the pawn bishop on c5. He just plays this like a completely straightforward, normal Italian, including the move h6. Knight bd2. Now, in my opinion, and clearly in Hikaru's as well, the best way to play an Italian is a5. And to be aggressive on that side of the board, disallow white from getting what he wants. a4, knight to d7. Clearly, Hikaru's still in his prep. And this must be some sort of unused candidate's preparation. This is sort of what happens when you prepare for the candidates tournament and you don't get to use all of your ideas. Bishop f5, and now, by the way, Hikaru still hasn't spent any time. He still has not spent any time. He gives up the bishop on b6, knight b6, 16 moves of prep. Fabiano Caruana is down 34 minutes on the clock. And finally, Hikaru has to think on his own, and he actually plays a move the engine doesn't even like, which is quite funny. He did not have to touch this pawn. The computer liked queen d6, queen g6, for example, rotating the queen, putting a little bit of pressure, and basically saying, look, Fabi, I'm going to take this with the bishop, then we're going to get a little backup here with the rooks, queen g6, this type of thing, queen f6 maybe, knight e7, c6, knight f5, not that. But yeah, Hikaru takes on f3, and I think he was just sort of trying to, play quickly and confidently, but suddenly he realizes after 27 minutes of thought, wait a minute, I probably should not have taken the pawn on f3. I probably should have played something else. Like I said, one of these two moves, even knight e7 here to try to play for c6 and putting the knight on this side of the board. But this actually gives Fabiano some life, and now suddenly he's attacking. So knight g6, and let's keep in mind that Hikaru has won a lot of their recent matchups, although Hikaru had the white pieces in those games. c6, and now Fabi finds this very nice idea. Rook takes f5, giving up the rook, rook f5, and now he had a good move here, knight to g4. It's important to start with knight to g4 because it forces king h8. If knight g4, queen h4 is played, this wins because you get the knight on g6. However, if you play bishop d3 first, then I do go queen h4, and there is no quick knight move. So that is the important thing. You had to start with knight to g4, king h8, bishop d3, and now with queen h4, you go queen into d6. And that is a major difference. Compared to the game, you cannot go queen to d6 because you lose. Because you lose. You queen f2, queen e1, you lose pieces. You can take, and if you count the pieces, you're down a piece. This doesn't work. But that's why you have to get the knight out of g4, out of h2, so you can run the king. That is the major difference. Fabi here had to play knight g4 or bishop d3, right? Obviously, it's very complicated position. He chooses this way. He continues to have an attack, but this way, we get here. And Hikaru survives the worst of it. Queen f7, king h7. And it looks like Fabi's still doing quite well, but rook e6 comes with a draw offer because it's the 30th move. The rule of the tournament is you cannot agree to a draw before move 30, which is very fitting because now it's move 30. It's point 1. The advantage is essentially bishop for the knight. That's it. Everything else is completely symmetrical. So, yeah, Hikaru played some very good prep, but actually pawn takes f3 overall probably put him more under pressure than he would have liked. I think queen d6 would have been maybe slightly better, but he chose the way he chose. He was under pressure maybe for like 2 moves. Game ends in a draw. What does that mean? That means they play again. That means they play again, and it's 10 minutes versus 7. So Hikaru now has draw odds, okay? And you will not believe this. Hikaru... Again, you may not remember this at all. These two played same colors, April 2024 in Toronto, Canada, round 1 of the candidates. And in that game, Hikaru played this, and then here he didn't play the Knight or Sicilian, but instead he played e5. E5 is a, you know, again, he'll meme on me. He might say, like, e5 is a bad move. It's a bad move. I mean, nowadays the engine can do anything. But Hikaru himself, even, I'm pretty sure, called this a garbage move. He played it again. I mean, he played this against Fabiano in the candidates. You would think Fabi did all his homework. Bishop b5, knight f5, bishop back to e2, knight to g3. You would think Fabi did all his prep and all his homework. And Fabi gets a worse position in 13 moves. This man, Hikaru, played this absolute garbage nonsense against Fabiano a second time. What? Queen d2, h5, and Hikaru just gets a completely effortless position, and Fabiano is now down on time. He does go for a very big attack. He can't take with the pawn. Queen g5 is mate. Does this. Hikaru trades and goes here. And again, Hikaru is one of the best defensive players in the world. You could attack him all you want, but he's going to defend himself. You got 4 minutes. You got to beat Hikaru in this position. You can't make a draw. Hikaru wins if the game ends in a draw. Fabi keeps pushing, but queen f3... You can't fork him either. You can't play knight c7 fork because then it's perpetual check for black. Queen f3, queen g4. Queen goes back to f7. Again, if any of you are wondering why the fork is not happening, black would have very quick counterplay. And my friends, the garbage prep pays off. Hikaru completely takes over the game. Queen f4, queen f3. Again, he's trying to repeat moves here. Fabi has to play for a win. And rook d1 is lights out. You got to take, and you would lose the defense of your queen. And Hikaru beats Fabi. So he drew him in the first game, and he beats him in the Armageddon. I do believe this means Hikaru gets either 1.5 or 2 points instead of 1. The scoring system is 3-0 if you win in Classical, and obviously you get 0 if you lose in Classical, but you get some points by making it to the Armageddon. Now again, there are only 12 players playing, so we're going to go through other matchups really relatively in a straightforward manner. Wenjun versus Vaishali Ramesh Babu. This is a matchup that we haven't seen this year because Wenjun's the world champ. She doesn't play in the candidates. So Vaishali recently got her Grandmaster title. I don't know why there's a comma there, but because it should just be Vaishali Ramesh Babu. So d4 knight f6, a Grunfeld, an opening you don't really see at the top level much anymore. People are kind of trending more toward knight f6, e6, kind of relative Queen's Gambit decline stuff. So we're gonna see what the women's world champion has here. She plays a relatively boring line, like a line where you just kind of damage the pawns and play a little bit more of a positional game. She puts some pressure. Knight e5 makes the game a little bit spicy, but very quickly we get opposite colored bishops and not really much. Actually, if anything, Vaishali's a pawn up. She's going to lose the pawn. There it goes. And now we have this position, and it's complete symmetry. And this is kind of classical chess in a nutshell right now. You kind of memorize a bunch of stuff. You play some solid stuff. Yeah, you're a pawn down, but it's impossible to win because the bishops are of opposite color. Very important you understand this. If you simplify all this down, it's going to be 1 extra pawn versus this bishop, and the bishop will just sacrifice itself for the pawn, wherever the pawn goes. So you can continue to try to attack black, but look at this. I mean, she just puts her king in the center because the king is actually safe. And the game goes on for a little bit, And Vaishali walks her king to b3 because she's a gangster, but there's nothing here. You look like you're going to get mated. You're not. She keeps trying to hunt the pawns, but yeah, this one... look, I mean, I'm telling you, it looks very scary. A lot of us would hang mate here. She's a little bit better than us, though. That's why she's here, and we're here, where we are. And as you can see, they both have very low time. It was very tense. It was very stressful, and Vaishali was probably like, why did I do that? But this one is very, very easy to draw because of this. You may be wondering what's going on. Even if you're up a bishop, if the corner promotion is not the right color and the king can get there, it's just a draw. King b7, draw agreed. Because again, this would be why. So you're wondering, this would be why. I mean, first of all, it's stalemate. But let's just say it wasn't a stalemate. And let's just say, you know, we got here. It's still a draw. It's still a draw because you can't queen the pawn. It's not possible. Don't believe me? Try it for yourself. Which means they also go to an Armageddon. And oh my God, Armageddon was very exciting. It was like a Jabava London. And then it was h3. And it was a sacrifice of a pawn. Just Wenjun just hates her pawns. She's just been giving them up left and right. And again, she has to win. So from the opening, she's up 4 minutes. Remember, the game starts 10-7. So by the middle game, she's up 4 minutes, and it's just a hard. It's not an easy position to play. Suddenly, Vaishali's got a bunch of weaknesses. Here comes knight d6. She takes the bishop. She has the bishop pair, and she's up 2 minutes. And she just needs to not completely malfunction, and she's doing a very nice job of that. Rook d1, playing it slowly. A lot of pressure on the black position. But suddenly, it's a time scramble. Like, suddenly, both players have no time. There's no bonus time. Queen b5, f5, counterplay being created by Vaishali, but she's 30 seconds down. She's 30 seconds down. There's a pawn over there. The pawn's going to make it to the other side of the board. We're going a5, and white just defends herself. And that's all she wrote. And Wenjun wins in the Armageddon. It was an Armageddon full day. Praggnanandhaa. Oh, by the way, I don't know why it saves Vaishali's name fully, and Prag just gets an R. So if somebody can help me why the algorithm does that, that would be much appreciated, because otherwise I am very confused why it saves their names like that. Now, this one, a Catalan, an opening that we have seen many, many times. We have DC and C5, very forcing line by Firouzja. He's trying to trade the pieces down. Castles, knight c6, queen a4. Typical stuff in the Catalan. You try to put pressure here, like this with the knight. Take. And white is going to try to play this position. White is going to try to say, my bishop is better than your bishop in the long run. My queen's better. Rook d1, bishop g5. Like, I'm going to try to put pressure on you with the position. So here come white's pieces, right? White's getting active. Firouzja plays f6. And still, you know, black has some problems. Black is worse. Black is worse due to the pawn structure. Black is worse due to the bishop. Rook a-d1. I'll play rook fd1 in this position, all right? I'll play rook fd1. It destabilizes the pawn, but I like the fact that the rooks are... Clearly, Prag knows something. Queen e7. And this is his idea. He's going to reroute the knight back into the middle. e5, you got to play. Here comes the bishop trying to hunt for checkmate. In a shocking turn of events, Alireza Firouzja does not blunder checkmate. Knight f3. And as you can see from the computer evaluation, it's not impressed. It does not like the way that Prag has maneuvered his pieces. If we go all the way back here, probably it would have preferred something like rook d1, queen e7, and instead of this idea of knight to d2, maybe going forward, which is kind of interesting. Maybe that's the way to go. And the engine actually quite likes this concept of trading, bringing the queen back, and obviously putting pressure on this side of the board and down that way. With Firouzja wouldn't blunder that, but what we get in the game is complete symmetry. And we've been here before, and I think you know where we're headed. We get complete symmetry, absolutely nothing. And Firouzja did a very nice job in this game with black, and we have another draw. Now, you may be sitting there going, how is classical chess marketable at all if they make if they make these draws? And by the way, I have a ridiculous game for you a little bit later. You know, how is this going to work? Well, yeah, that's kind of the struggle. I mean, in the candidates, we had some very, very high stakes and interesting stuff. But here, everybody's just trying to go to the arcade. Everybody's just trying to finish their homework so they can try to go play in the, air hockey. And by the way, if anybody's wondering, I have absolutely no idea what this opening is. C3 is a trendy move. It's trying to play a London, and if black plays c5, you're going to take it and then use your pawns to defend each other. But I have no, like, what even is this garbage? Like, I don't even know. Knight e4. I don't know. Bishop f5. Like, what are we doing? I don't know what this is. I can't explain this. I mean, now the queens are off. Bishop d2. And from the early game, I mean, it was just Firouzja who had a fantastic position. But the play is kind of still on Prag's side. So Pragg has to win, all right? We know the Armageddon. We just saw Wenjun win. We just saw Fabiano lose to Hikaru. And Firouzja just plays in a way where, you know, he gets this type of position. Look at the time, by the way. The time is relatively equal, but Pragg is still pressuring. And I think Firouzja kind of rushed the simplification here. Now King F3, and suddenly Firouzja's back down on time. And what a gangster little king walk here from Pragg. Rook D1, patience. Wait a minute, what happened to Pragg's time? How did this man Pragg go from up like 50 seconds to down a minute? What? Take, he gotta go for it. He got 30 seconds. What is Pragg doing? There's no bonus time. He was up 3 minutes to start the game. He's down 17 seconds. We have Rook D3, Rook F3, Rook F6. He's winning, but Firouzja's promoting, but Pragg has 12 seconds. Rook F7 check. King goes back to E5. Wait a minute, but the pawn's gonna queen. Oh, but D2, the bishop comes back. We have knight E6. Now it's 15 seconds versus... It's 4 seconds! King F6! Bishop H5, Rook H8, and Bishop G4, and Firouzja loses on time. I'm sorry. Is this accurate? Was it really 15 seconds versus 4? Because if it was, how on earth did Firouzja lose this game on the clock? This has to be a transmission error. So Pragg wins. I mean, I don't even know how that's possible, but like, I don't know how you lose this game. I don't know. How did you lose? I have no clue. I don't know, but Pragg wins. So every game has been decided in this chaotic Armageddon. Every single one. Pia Cramling, mother of Anna Cramling, covers a lot of the games on our channel and at one point was the highest rated woman in the world. I didn't even know that. I knew she was very good. This is called like this is not exactly called the Hubner variation. I think this is the Hubner variation and then like E5. It's one of these variations of the Nimso, but this is kind of the general idea, this E5 move, and Black just kind of shuts down White's play, and Pia is gonna try to target the pawn. So we have F3, takes the queen, and from the opening, I mean, Pia was just, this is an incredible position for White. Apparently here, she should have played very aggressively, given up the pawn and played knight to E4, just basically challenging the entire integrity of the Black position. She played it a bit more slowly, and that gave Humpy a chance to trade some pieces and basically defend herself in a slightly worse and unpleasant endgame. Rook B5, and it looked very unpleasant, and here Pia's winning. If Pia takes the bishop, she's winning. AB, CB targets the knight goes somewhere, let's say to E7, you just take, and you play this position for a win. You get here, and you go, and you try to win this position. Maybe Rook F8 is more accurate. Bishop G5, I don't know, King D7. This is a winning endgame, apparently. You just are down in exchange, but you have an extra pawn. You actually have 2 extra pawns, and she cannot move. For whatever reason, Pia didn't like that. She went Rook D5, which is still good. I think she thought she was just completely winning here as well, and she gets the pawn to G7. She is completely dominating, by the way. I mean, absolutely dominating. Knight E7, Rook A5. Okay, Rook A5 makes a lot of sense. She took the pawn, though. You would think being up 2 pawns is good, but apparently she needed to go this way because now her rook is passive. And the knight comes out, and somehow she's no longer winning because Humpy wins the pawn. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy turn of events. And Pia's no longer winning. She's only a pawn up, and it's only a pawn. She had a chance here, I think, but nothing as substantial as she had, and the players just agree to a draw. She plays H3. She doesn't have a lot of time on the clock, and the players just agree to a draw. And her biggest mistake, believe it or not, was to take a free pawn. Apparently just going here and patiently wait, like knight F5, you give up the rook, and Black just is powerless because you're going Rook F8 or Rook F7. Like, I don't know, Rook D7, Rook F8, Rook D8. You don't even have to take anything. You could just bring the king because everything's protected. So Pia, unfortunately, she was totally dominating and a fantastic game from her, but they go to an Armageddon as well. And again, White is 3 minutes up. Pia again playing into a Queen's Gambit. She plays just a very solid line. Rook C1, takes on C5. This has all been seen many, many times before. But again, remember, White needs to take risk. And the way that Humpy is playing this, she is not allowing risk to be taken. I mean, she is literally getting rid of every piece. And now we're in an endgame, King G7, and somehow White has to win this game. And it's just not looking like it's gonna happen. And Probably somewhere Pia should have maybe played a sideline. Maybe she should have clarified the position in the center a little bit sooner, but what happens in this game is Black plays a very aggressive Queen's Gambit declined, clears out the center of the board, and it's just a tough situation where you're guided in your play by the result. And White, despite not having, any sort of advantage here, is squished, and there's just, you're not winning this. It's not a win, and Armageddon's very tough. She kept trying, she kept pushing, she ended up giving up a pawn. We see this a lot when you kind of know you can't make a draw, but ultimately it's just a draw. And Humpy Koneru winning in the Armageddon. So we have a win with Black for Hikaru. We have a win with Black for Humpy because she made a draw. Prague flags Firouzja. And Wenjun defeats Vaishali. And we had Anna Muzychuk, the final game in the women's side, and then we have Magnus versus Ding as our main event of the evening. Anna Muzychuk, this was a French defense from late Ting. Yeah, this line has been played actually. Knight f6, e5. So knight d7, knight f3, very solid line, very, very good line. And Black is just very solid, giving up, trading the pieces and getting the bishop pair. Although the bishop on d7 is not particularly impressive. And we g4, g5, very aggressive stuff, okay? Bishop e3, queen c7. Late Xingjie castles queenside. Now, another key idea in the French is h5. Using the pawns in front of the Black king before Black castles to push these pieces a little bit back. That's another major idea. But both sides castle queenside in the classical game, and obviously the clash is going to happen over here. White can try to generate an attack, but it's highly unlikely. And as you can see, that is exactly what happens. The game kind of begins to heat up over there. Rook g3, h5, but now this is a very sneaky way of sneaking. I need to take a nap. Rook c3, look at that. And suddenly Lei is under some pressure. Bishop e3, Anna is going to slowly make some progress here. Queen f2, king a8. Now's her moment. She plays rook d3, bishop b4, trades, and now what you got to start doing here with White, you got to push this bishop back, a3, put the bishop back, and play f5. That's what she's got to do. She's got this key idea here to play f5. And for some reason, she didn't like this. And in this position, she played bishop d2, queen b6, and repeated the position. So she obviously did not like the concept of a3 and f5. Maybe she was disturbed by a3, bishop e1, which admittedly is a very spooky move, because now you got to decide where you're moving your queen. This looks mildly unpleasant. The truth is, White is actually completely fine. Black plays h4. Even rook d1 traps the bishop, so you can't even play h4. So this was a big moment, and here, Anna should have went a3, f5. That was the key moment. Now again, 14 moves she has to make. She has to get to the 40th move. That's when she's going to get her bonus time. But she might lose on time. There is no bonus time until move 40. She decides to make a draw. Obviously, she spent 11 minutes making that decision. So now they play an Armageddon. Right? So another Armageddon. Everybody going to an Armageddon. By the way, same opening. So Lei Xingjie is like, listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like the position that I got. This time she plays slightly differently. And this time we don't get all the trades that we got from the previous game. And this time they both castle short. Last game they both had long castle on the board. So bishop e3. Remember, White's playing for a win. So Anna starts going to play for a win. Lei strikes back. All right, Anna's playing for a win. Lei is defending. Anna plays rook e1. By the way, 40 seconds on rook e1. It's a lot of time spent. And by the way, Lei clutch. 15 seconds, quickly. 3 seconds, quick moves, right? Suddenly, they're both in 3 minutes. So White's 3-minute time advantage granted in the Armageddon is gone. And a counter strike and a move like this comes as a massive shock. Because now is when you start realizing, wait a minute, I'm not winning at all. And Black is actually threatening to win the game. This is game over for White. Queen comes in. So White's got to go here. Bishop b5. Now we start trading pieces. Look at that. Rook d8. Bishop f5. Very close on time now. Take. Boom. I mentioned that queen from a distance. And that's it. That's a nasty haymaker. And that's mate. That's mate. But look at that move. Look at that move. Some of you may be wondering, isn't that a free rook? Absolutely it is. But it deflects the rook's defensive e2. Knight e2 would win the queen. That is what happened. It was lost anyway, but Leitings, yeah, very convincing. Gets to this position, goes here, no mate. Make sure there's no back rank problems. Now it's time to go hunting. And Anna loses her bishop, but she was already lost. And Lei wins. Lei wins that Armageddon. So now black 3-2 in the Armageddons. And that brings us to our final game of the day, the only game that did not make it to an Armageddon. Some of you maybe like, Gotham, why'd you spoil that? And I'm like, suck it up. That's what, you know. So, Ding Liren, the reigning defending champion of the world. Magnus Carlsen, not the reigning defending champion of the world. Well, he is in Rapid and Blitz. The unified champion, if you will, never actually was defeated in his match. The #1 rated player in the world, and by many people still referred to as world champion, kind of like they referred to presidents. And this one is a Catalan, so we are going into the vintage territory of Ding Liren. Ding Liren loves the Catalan, plays it all the time. Now, some of you may be wondering, some of you might have not noticed, why did Magnus Carlsen spend 15 minutes on his fourth move? Well, at the tournament, we have something called a confessional booth, which is where the players come in and tell you all of the illegal things that they've done. It's kind of like a, confessional, like a real confessional booth, right? They tell you, oh, I gambled on this game. No, I'm just kidding. They don't do things like that. I mean, maybe they do, but they haven't said that in the confessional booth. So Hikaru came to the confessional booth and said, Magnus just left the board for 15 minutes because he was eating food. Magnus was sitting in the player lounge, eating a bowl of noodles, and then proceeded to eat pizza. That's why it took him 15 minutes to play bishop e7. Bro, he couldn't eat before the game started? I love how everything Magnus does is, like, fascinating. Like, why is he spending 15 minutes, like, just eating? I mean, you talk about a level of, like, I'm in total control and there's nothing you can do about it. So, now there's a big moment in this position. Will Magnus play the open Catalan? Or will he play the closed? He plays the closed. That's kind of rare. Nowadays, people kind of enter more open territory, but, then there's a lot of theory and you don't, so he plays c6, which is just a solid opening. Ding plays queen c2. Now, Ding spent 13 minutes, not because he was eating food. He just didn't know what to play. There's a lot of options here. Probably was not expecting Magnus to go here. Ding plays bishop f4. The bishop goes to b7. The rook goes to d1. They develop their pieces. And now Ding plays this confrontational move, knight to e5. And Magnus uses that as an opportunity to target the bishop, and the bishop comes back, because going back to the home score would be bad. Now Magnus comes back to f6, says, hey, Ding, if you come back to f4, I'm going to make a repetition. And you're playing with white, so that would be, silly, so don't do that. You got to take on d5. That's what... No. And Ding repeats the position, and they make a draw in 14 moves. In fact, they made a draw in 10 moves, because they just repeated the position on move 10 3 times. Hey, I heard that there was a post. The broadcasting rights of this tournament are like in India. It's on Sony LIV Live. It's on TV in China. What? Like, boys, if we're gonna do this, why don't we just make it a knockout with 25-minute chess? Wouldn't that be so much more exciting? Like, literally every game went to Armageddon. I'm not criticizing the organization. In fact, Norway Chess is like the utmost, strongest tournament that happens every single year with incredible conditions. They have this interesting, like, this is the only tournament in the world that does this, where they get the Armageddon. But, like, boys, what are we doing? Like, I mean, if classical chess is that boring, let's just play 25 minutes. Let's make a 3-hour media package for television with ads, with, the whole thing. We watch tennis, we watch all these sports. Let's do that. What are we doing? Anyway, they got to play Armageddon now. So, c4. Ding goes for c4. Magnus plays the best move, which is e5. And kind of interesting, by the way, Magnus doesn't play c6. And by the way, for the record, Magnus doesn't have to win. He's playing black. It's a Catalan. I mean, you literally... Like, there are very, very small differences between playing the black side of a Catalan and giving yourself a colonoscopy. Like, they're very equivalent. I mean, in terms of the uncomfortability. So, g3, knight f6, and Magnus plays this move h6. I actually played this myself, so I was inspired by a game Vladimir Cramling played before he did all the anti-cheating stuff. And, obviously now Kramnik's name is associated with, kind of like that whole side of the, but like 70, I saw Kramnik an interesting game in h6. I played it. The idea is basically to prevent bishop to g5. So Ding goes here, e4, d6, and Magnus plays like this. I now Ding plays h3, a5 from Magnus, and by the way, d4 continues to be very strong here, but again, Magnus is just trying to take Ding into territory where he's not going to play moves very fast, and this is knight h7 is a wild move. The idea is to go here, and clamp down on that center. Ding goes here and plays f4. Very, very good play from Ding Liren. Very good play. f5, the best way. Knight d4, take. Rook b1, a3, b4, maybe an idea now, right? And now here comes Magnus down that side of the board. And yeah, Ding plays queen g4, but just king f8. And you have this moment where you no longer have a plan of action with white. And believe it or not, I'm not even sure where you went wrong. Like, everything Ding did made sense. Maybe he shouldn't have played f5 so quickly, but the position is still okay. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of a weird one. And what he ends up doing is he ends up going here. Magnus just defends himself and starts completely taking over the game. Takes on f3, targets the knight, puts the bishop there. You can't beat him. So he trades all your pieces, and that's it. That's it. Completely locked you down. Completely neutralized, start to finish. The only thing you have remaining is this move g5. It's not gonna work. You're gonna play it, you're gonna prep it. At some point, you gotta make the move. You gotta play g5. If you don't play it, you literally have no other pawn break. At some point, you gotta make the move g5. You have to play g5 at some point, or else you lose the game. There it is. And we trade everything, and you will definitely not win because that's mate. So, yeah. Tough game. Tough game. And Magnus actually did not have that much time, but he picks up a couple of pawns. And that's it. Queen g2, queen e4, queen d4. And what's funny is that Ding actually could have probably tried to flag him. He could have. He could have tried to flag him. But now it's just a draw. So Magnus, very nicely, with about 10 seconds on the clock, wins the Armageddon. Very nice neutralization. Day one ends with Magnus, Prague, and Hikaru winning. It ends with Wenjun winning, Lei Tingjie, and Humpy Koneru. And I could not get a photo of the standings because they were broken. Hopefully they're not broken tomorrow. I tried, but it's round one of many. So Norway Chess underway. On the rest days of this tournament, which are May 31st and June 5th, I will post the continuation of the tournament that I won myself in Toronto, Canada. Some of you checked that out yesterday. And if you have yet to check, and then obviously we have more Road to GM content coming after that. It's going to be a very, very busy few weeks. So continue to check the Road to Grandmaster content. I do appreciate it very much. And shout out to all of you who have subscribed to the Patreon. Over 250 of you already. You're all very, very incredible. Hope you're enjoying the full in-depth lessons. Yeah, we have content on this channel booked until June 20th. So buckle up for a fun month and get out of here.